item on the agenda is adoption of the agenda. I'll just move that the May 20th, 2026 regular council meeting agenda be adopted as presented. Is there a seconder to that? Second by Councillor Lerner. And through staff, is there anything to note in terms of additional? Well, I guess we have additional information for item 4B. And there was supplementary information for the temporary use permit. So just noting that through to council. Okay, yeah, go ahead, Councillor Savage.
Yes, I've got a motion I've submitted that was left off the agenda and was acknowledged it would be on the agenda, but I don't see it in writing. So I'd like to add the motion, and it reads that council directs staff to ensure the Phase 1 and Phase 2 village gardens are adequately watered by the irrigation system in order that all plantings thrive from May to October. So I would like to add that to the agenda.
Motion, yeah, so the watering. And do we have a seconder to that amendment? Second by Councillor Jones.
And if I could request it goes in after 11A as it's related to water. That's the annual water report.
Yeah. And through the seconder, is that okay?
Thank you.
Yes. All right, so I'll call the question on the amendment. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. Back to the agenda as amended. Anything further? Okay, hearing or seeing nothing, I'll call the question. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. All right, we have some correspondence. So we have the Regional District and Nanaimo Solid Waste Development Cost Charge Bylaw information. Okay. Moving on to, we have under general matters, we have mayor and council verbal updates. So we'll start with down at Councillor Mundell, if you wish.
Nothing for me.
Okay, Councillor Jones.
Yes, I just would love to bring it to everyone's attention, if you don't already know, that the fire department is having a fundraiser golf tournament at our Lantzville Chelsea Golf Course. It's on June 14th, and you can register either by phoning the fire department for more info or just go to the website eventbrite.ca and search for it. And there'll be a tournament and lunch and prizes and just generally, I'm sure, a lot of good times and lost golf balls.
Okay, Councillor Savage.
Just to say, I'll be attending that golf tournament too, and the fire chief informed me its highest score wins, so real good.
Councillor Lerner.
Yes, just noting that our local hockey team in the BCHL, the Nanaimo Clippers, which is our main catchment area hockey team, is playing tonight in Game 4 of the finals for the Cup. And I know the Brooks Bandits are leading 2-1, but there's still some games to go, and so fingers crossed. And thank everyone for cheering on the Clippers. Thank you.
Okay, for myself, I have nothing for this evening. Moving on to 4B, so we have the delegation this evening. So we have Miss Joan McMillan, if you wish to come up to the podium, and this is the rare occasion we don't need your name and address for the record. Well, it's in the agenda. And then when you're ready to start, you'll have 10 minutes.
Okay. I'm actually not going to take all 10 minutes. I can give it the leftover to somebody else if they'd like it. Anyway, thank you for this opportunity to speak. But I'm once again here to address the safety of Lantzville streets. And as you know, I've been interested in this for quite a long time. But after much research and consultation with RCMP and first responders, I have again compiled viable solutions for an ongoing safety concerns for Lantzville residents and Lantzville roads. I feel the crux of the problem is inadequate space on the roads. And all of you have got a diagram of If you see me out in the road with the tape measure, that was me. The recent traffic trail study suggests that dedicated bike lanes at some point in future would be advisable. However, without huge costs and mostly impossible road widening, bike lanes are not feasible, and most certainly not in the foreseeable future. A recent provincial law states that 1 meter, 39 inches, must be allowed to the side of any person, bicycle, scooter, etc. sharing the road. The RCMP confirmed it is illegal to cross a solid center yellow line. So therein lies a huge problem with the roads that are too narrow. Many sight lines in the downtown are blocked with overgrowth, and core parking spaces mostly require crossing the solid line onto the opposite lane to back out of a parking spot. It seems that two relatively inexpensive and simple solutions would create safer roads for all. One is a reduction of speed throughout Lantzville to 30K. Lantzville Council has the authority to set speed limits on roads under their jurisdiction. Statistics have shown with venerable road users at 50, a collision with anybody using the road with a vehicle, collision with the vehicle at 50K results in an 85% possibility of death. At 40K, a 30% possibility of death, compared to with a collision at 30K, it's 10%. Those statistics alone should be a reason to lower the speed limit. Raised crosswalks, also now known as speed humps, not bumps, if over 30 kilometers, will not affect the operation of a vehicle driving at 30 kilometers. People complain about, their cars, bottoms can be taken out of their car and whatnot. However, if they're going over 30K, then it's adherent to speeding and could possibly cause damage. The first responders I spoke to are comfortable with speed humps on Lantzville roads and say they don't pose any problems with their emergency vehicles. I was astonished that dead-end Sebastian Road has 3 raised crosswalks. So I researched the 2019 council meetings regarding the upgrades to Sebastian. It may be noted there are 20 residences on the street, 15 people attended the meeting, 12 attendees had no comment, 5 favored asphalt resurfacing and speed bumps, 5. 1 was neutral and 2 liked the design. Compared to the number of letters council has received since 2019 with safety concerns, plus the 53 people who signed a petition in Upper Lantzville, it is amazingly unbalanced that 5 people could instigate 3 speed bumps on a short dead-end street. Attached is a drawing of Sebastian, Lantzville, and Peterson Road, which I think all of council has, indicating the measurements of the lanes separated on Peterson by a solid yellow line. It's illegal to cross that line at any time. Poor road design has created a serious traffic hazard for both vehicles and anybody else or other vehicles sharing the road. Peterson Road services a catchment area of approximately 240 homes, with several more homes planned, therefore more vehicles, more pedestrians, construction machinery, etc. on the road, compared with Sebastian with 20 homes. Each lane on Peterson is 128 inches, a raised curb on one side, a very narrow shoulder, and deep unprotected ditch on the other. Peterson is at least 4 times the length of Sebastian, with 4 side streets and a hill at the top end. Several road users have to cross the street, and presently there are no crosswalks at all on Peterson. It should be noted that a bike rider, this is now provincial law, has to be allowed 39 inches, where a bike lane supposedly should be about 40 inches on the road, 36 to 40 inches, but we don't have bike lanes. But if you have a bike on the road, the bike should be allowed about that much. Now, new bylaw states that a meter must be left between a vehicle and a bike rider when they're passing. There isn't enough room to pass a bike rider without crossing the solid yellow line. And once again, because the roads are too narrow. To summarize, the District of Lantzville, Mayor and Council, has a duty to ensure safety to all residents and to reduce, this is important, to reduce the level of risk for the district for not having safe roads or wide enough roads. And it's essential to lower the speed limit throughout and add raised crosswalks or speed humps where required to meet this goal. The lowering of community speed limits is happening in communities throughout the province and on the island, including most recently Saanich, Victoria, Esquimalt, Central Saanich, North Saanich, and Sydney. Signage at each entrance of Lantzville would be cost-effective, plus signs indicating the speed humps. I see no need for yet another expensive study. Use those funds for signage. Thank you. And if you have any questions,
Yeah, great. Thank you for your presentation. Through to council, any questions for the delegation? Okay, hearing nothing from council, thank you for your presentation. That moves us on to item 7 on our agenda. We have a public input period. So persons recognized by the chair to speak must first state their name and address for the record and may speak once for up to 2 minutes unless council resolves otherwise, and are limited to providing comment regarding items listed on this evening's agenda. Comments must be directed to the chair and are not to include comments regarding staff, council members, personnel issues, and so forth. So is anybody wanting to come to the microphone this evening? Okay, if you wish, yep. And through to staff, do we have anybody remotely registered this evening? Nobody, okay. So yeah, just press the button and make it go red, and then name and address for the record, please. And then you'll have 2 minutes.
Cecil Baldry White, 7353 Spence's Way, Lantzville. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, fellow councillors, wonderful staff, and fellow Lantzville residents. Given that there's a motion going to be put forth this evening to do with pickleball, I thought it might be interesting for everybody who's here and who's watching remotely to get a little deeper appreciation for why, we've been advocating for this amazing sport. So in a nutshell, here's just a couple of things. The Sports and Fitness Industry Association has declared pickleball the fastest growing sport in Canada with a growth rate of roughly 40% over the last 24 months, 2 years. And it found that 57% increase in participation over the past 3 years, with enjoyment and fun cited as the top reason for people, followed by health, fitness, and social aspects. The demand for courts, programs, and facilities is outpacing supply in communities across Canada, making investment in pickleball infrastructure both timely and impactful for the residents of those communities. From a personal health benefit, basically, one of the wonderful things about pickleball is its low impact. And so very low injury rates if people have adequate training and just follow the basic rules. It improves balance, coordination, and reflexes for people of all ages. It supports mental health, reduces stress, boosts mood through regular physical activity. And one of the most wonderful things is that it has a very shallow learning curve. It's easy to learn, so there's no barrier to entry compared to more complicated sports that require more athleticism, like tennis. A second major area that supports this growth rate is community connection. And I think that's one of the passions that I have and why I'm involved in this movement, is that it's naturally social. The smaller court size and the fact that you play in doubles format basically puts 4 people together with constant interaction with their partners and with their opponents.
Sorry to interrupt you, but you're at your 2 minutes unless if council wants to extend the speaker's time by unanimous consent. Any objections?
I could wrap up in 1 minute
Well,
if you
we've
would allow that.
extend the speaker's time by 1 minute. Any objections? Okay, see no objections. Yeah, you got another minute.
Thank you for your kindness, thank you. With the community connection, it attracts mixed generations. So this is creating cross-age friendships that are rare in most sports. And club and drop-in culture means newcomers are welcomed quickly. The final aspect is the support for local business. Pickleball drives demand for local sporting goods stores if they're in the regional area, equipment, apparel, but more importantly, for nearby cafes and restaurants and pubs. And that's where Lantzville could really benefit from this. So with that in mind, I'd just like you to consider that when this motion is put forward later this evening and when you all make your decisions and vote on it. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Any additional speakers for this evening or public input? Yeah, just go to the microphone and name and address for the record, and you'll have 2 minutes, possibly 3.
My name's Joanne Hogan. I live at 7112 Ocean Blue Place. Mine's very quick. I just want to say that I've been working with Cecil and a group of others who are very keen to expand the community experience in Lantzville, and so I fully support the pickleball and willing to work towards it and provide complimentary learn-to-play pickleball lessons, or I wouldn't really call it a lesson, an introductory sessions to pickleball for any residents of Lantzville, if we can get some court to facilitate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. Any additional speakers this evening? Okay, hearing nothing, we'll move on in the agenda. So we have under item 8, legislative matters, we have the 2025 consolidated financial statement approval. So Director Sapola, is there anything you'd like to introduce here at this point before we have Mr. Vanderhorst up to the podium?
No, Your Worship, I don't have anything to add before his presentation.
Okay, thank you. And I'm assuming there's a presentation getting queued up. Okay. There we go. Okay. Yeah, when you're, well, welcome, Mr. Vanderhorst. When you're ready, you can start.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening to the council and staff. Thank you for inviting me here to attend. I have a brief presentation to give on the 2025 financial statements and the audit results, and then I'll be happy to answer some questions. Before I get started, a big thank you to the Director of Financial Services, CAO, and all the district staff for going through the audit process. We really appreciate all your assistance. The audit goes very smoothly, and so it's a good experience all around. Just a quick slide here before we look at the numbers. A reminder again that I'm going to be talking about figures on a consolidated basis. All the funds coming together that you see listed there. Throughout the year, you might get staff reports that focus on one area, but when we put together the annual financial statements, we're looking at everything brought together on an overall consolidated basis. So for 2025, you can see there the statement of operations or the income statement, total revenues of $7.5 million, up a little bit from the prior year's 7.3. Total expenses of $6.2 million, very consistent with the prior year and under budget, and an accounting surplus of $1.3 million. So a little bit of an increase year over year. Now I say accounting surplus because there's all sorts of adjustments that go on and differences between what you see in your budget to what you see in the financial statements. When you're looking at your budget, it might be a little bit more like the cash flow statement. So here, regular operations of the district brought in $3 million of cash flows. There's $1.2 million of capital spending throughout the year. $2.4 million is put into the investment accounts to make sure you're earning a good rate of return. And there is some debt being paid down on schedule, $118,000 of debt repayments. So at the end of the year, there's a net cash outflow of $734,000. But remembering that 2.4 of that is going out of the cash accounts into the investment accounts. So you actually do get, at the end of 2025, on December 31st, an increase in cash and investments from 19.2 million to 20.9 million dollars. Cash and investments and receivables are what we call the total financial assets of 21.6 million dollars, also an increase year over year. The debt that you're paying down on schedule is down to 3.7 million dollars. Debt, payables, and other accrued liabilities would total 10.7 million dollars. So you get what we call the net financial asset position. That's the total financial assets minus the total liabilities of 10.8 million dollars, about a 1.4 million dollar increase year over year. And then tangible capital assets, the roads, water, sewer, all the infrastructure that you're managing, on the books at 69.2 million dollars. Very consistent year over year. So we saw about 1.2 million dollars of additions. There's also depreciation taken to reduce that down. And the accumulated surplus at the end of the year is just a little bit over 80 million dollars. Now, most of that, you can see in that top line, is what we call the equity and tangible capital assets. That's the value of the physical assets minus the debt. Then there's just shy of $500,000 in a restricted operating surplus. So not necessarily a reserve, but earmarked for future projects. $12 million set aside in reserves. And the unrestricted funds, or the general fund, has a $2 million surplus. And that's what makes up that $80 million of accumulated surplus balance. Switching gears to the audit and audit results, we are providing what we call an unmodified opinion. So that is auditor language for a clean audit opinion. We're satisfied that the financial statements you have in your package are prepared, presented fairly in all material respects in accordance with public sector accounting standards. The last step today is council approval of the financial statements. All the other minor matters have been cleaned up, and we're satisfied. There's no other pieces or procedures that we want to complete for our audit. When we go through our audit process, we make sure we get an understanding of your controls. How are you getting accurate financial results? We don't specifically test the effectiveness of the controls if they're working throughout the year. Our audit instead focuses on the year-end balances and are they accurate. So we sample transactions throughout the year. We don't look at every transaction. And to drive that level of audit testing, we use that number of materiality. So that's roughly 5% of your annual revenues. I have to look at every transaction that's larger than $370,000, large capital grants, capital projects, and then below that dollar amount, we sample transactions. If we found something that we disagreed with staff on and it was larger than that amount, I can't give you a clean audit opinion. But if there are differences of opinion in the financial statements below that number, I can still give a clean audit opinion. We didn't find any irregularities or unusual transactions, no evidence of illegal or questionable payments. We are not specifically looking for fraud when we perform a financial statement audit, but if something came to my attention, I will be required to report it out to council. Again, a big thank you to staff throughout the district for going through the audit process. And I will confirm our independence. So we didn't do any other projects with the district that would impair my ability to give you an independent audit opinion from January 1st, 2025, all the way through to today, the end of the audit period. So thank you for listening to the auditor speak, and happy to answer any questions about the financials or the audit process.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Through to council, any specific questions? Councillor Lerner, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I had two questions. Thank you for the report and the hard work. The first question is regarding the materiality level of 5%. Is that standard for municipalities, or how is that level determined that that's what you want to look at?
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, so we use a range of 3 to 5% of revenues for all the communities that we work with. I know other audit firms are in that range, anywhere from 2 to 6. So 3 to 5 is on the high side. Why do we go to 5%? We have history of working with the district. We are comfortable with the risk level involved, with your staff, and the the lack of issues that we've had getting to the financial statements, the fact that it's been a clean audit for many years. And so that lets us slide to that high side.
Sure, thank you. And as my second question, when it comes to the reserves, not necessarily whether they're sufficiently funded, that's a policy decision, but when it comes to the amount that it says is in there, as far as being fully funded, is the amount that's listed in there for reserves actually cash or investment equivalent in reserves? Like it's fully funded? Okay,
It's
great.
fully funded. There's, I think, $12 million in reserves. You have over $20 million in investments.
Okay,
So
thank
fully
you.
funded, yep.
I appreciate it.
Okay, any additional questions from council? Okay, seeing nothing, again, thank you for your
you, Mr. Mayor.
presentation this evening. All right, so through to council, there is a motion there. Is someone prepared to make that motion? Go ahead, Councillor Savage.
That council approve the draft 2026 consolidated financial statements report dated May 20, 2026.
And do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Lerner. Yeah,
Just a note, sorry, it is a 2025 statement though, isn't it? It should say 2025 like it does on the agenda, is that
the
correct?
draft, yeah.
2020.
Sorry, what did Councillor,
I was confused if it was 2026 or 2025, but we're dealing with
it's the
2025.
draft 2025.
Okay, yep. I'll second.
Okay, second by Councillor Lerner, and then discussion, Councillor Savage is the mover,
Nothing, thank you.
Councillor Lerner, the rest of the council. Okay, I will move then to call in question. All those in favor, opposed, it's carried unanimously. That takes us to item 8B. So we have the District of Lantzville Development Cost Charge Bylaw 422-2025. Director Robinson, anything further to introduce? Go ahead.
Just some brief remarks. After council passed second reading, staff held an additional open house on April 14th from 5 to 8 p.m. So if you recall previously, we had a daytime session, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. I think it was, and then so we had an evening session, so we caught morning, afternoon, and evening in case anybody wanted to come and talk to us about it. And I can confirm that we had one attendee who had just some minor clarification questions and had no comments. So there are no additional comments to report to council.
Okay, thank you for that. Through to council, is someone prepared to get the motion on the floor then? Go ahead, Councillor Lerner.
The District of Lantzville Development Cost Charge Bylaw 422-2025 be given third reading.
And do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Savage, and then discussion through the mover, seconder, rest of council. Go ahead, Councillor Savage.
Yeah, just a couple of comments. Just thank you to Director Robbins for heading up the DCC bylaw. These are very complex exercise requiring focus and time. I remember the 2018 one, same story, so thank you for that. Took us a while. It's a good result. So I'm pleased with the result, but not overjoyed to have to impose these fees. But unfortunately, with the immense amount of downloading and so on by the province, we're just left with no choice but to have DCCs to cover the costs that development actually causes. So anyway, thank you.
Any additional comments from council? Okay, hearing nothing, I will move to call in a question. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. All right. That takes us on item 8C. So we have the temporary use permit application for 7373 Industrial Road, and through to Director Robinson. I'm guessing a short presentation is following? Or introduction?
Yes, sir, a short presentation, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions the council
Okay.
has. Oh, whoopsies, sorry. There we go. All right. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. This evening, we're considering a temporary use permit for 7373 Industrial Road. The property owner has applied for a temporary use permit to authorize the temporary use of the subject property for outdoor storage, assembly yard, and accessory office uses. Those uses are defined in the report, and they're also defined in the draft permit that's included in the attachments. The location property is in the Lantzville Industrial Park. It's zoned light industrial, light industry, and it's on the corner of Industrial and Mart Roads. The applicant is proposing to use a portion of the site for the proposed temporary uses for a period of 2 years to allow them to complete preparation of development plans for the site, which are also included in your agenda package at a very high level. We've been working with the property owners on the proposed development, and they'll be bringing forward a development permit application for these properties in the future, but it's not prepared at this time. So they do have a potential leasee who's interested in a temporary use of the site. Will they prepare the development plans? The property owner is in the room with us today. He doesn't have a presentation, but he's happy to answer any questions you have about either the temporary use permit or their proposed development plans. The site would essentially be an outdoor storage and assembly area, which is similar to a number of other properties in the Lantzville Industrial Park, which are currently considered a legal non-conforming use. As council is aware, the development permit guidelines for the industrial park changed in 2019 when the new official community plan was updated, which really encourages the development of warehouse or light assembly buildings rather than having outdoor assembly uses and outdoor storage uses. The development permit guidelines that kind of articulate the vision for how the industrial park develops in the future kind of incorporates more towards what the applicant is proposing in their future development plans. So there are two motions as part of the temporary use permit approval. That council approves the temporary use for a period of 2 years, and that council grants an exemption to the development permit for form and character for the subject property for the scope of the temporary use permit. So because the temporary use permit is a use that's not contemplated in the zoning and kind of doesn't comply with the development permit guidelines, you're essentially granting an exemption for the development permit for the purpose of approving this temporary use permit. So we need to do both motions if council wants to approve the temporary use permit. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have, and I know the applicant is also able to answer any questions.
So I see a couple of hands up, so Councillor Savage and then Councillor Jones.
Yeah, Associate Chair to Director Robinson. So what is the tie-in of this building in the layout here? Is that the building that will eventually be built after the temporary use permit?
That's correct, sir. So if you look at the location plan, they're currently preparing a development permit application for 6862 Mart Row, which is immediately to the south of this property, which they also own. And their intent, and the applicant can probably go through this to more detail than I can right now. Their intent is to develop that property within the next 2 years and then come in for a development permit application for 7373 industrial. So build one site, have the temporary use running on the other site, and then once that site is completed, then build at 7373, yeah, that's the right address.
Yeah, so tonight we're not approving the development permit for this building. It's just the idea of something to look forward to, a real addition to Lantzville. So,
Absolutely, sir. It's just for context.
yeah, good, thank you.
Councillor Jones.
Yes, there's been a little bit of information through the chair to Director Robinson on this in our agenda package here, but just to get clarification on it, I understand there will be some assembly going on in the yard. That's the ask to approve that work. Can you give an idea what type of equipment will be being used? Electric, hammers, nail guns, jackhammers, you know, just for everybody to get a clear idea what the impact is on the surrounding area of the assembly process.
Absolutely, Councillor. So I understand from the applicant's letter, which is also included in your package, and it goes over a little bit in the report, they'll be using a forklift to help unpack sea cans of materials and assembling different components on site. That could involve power tools, electric or otherwise. It would be compatible with some of the other outdoor storage and assembly uses you see in the industrial park, for example, at the log cabin assembly location. So I would foresee a similar level of noise from that assembly use.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. That's very helpful. And then down the road, when the new building is completed and the assembly moves there, will the assembly be moved inside or will it also be done outside on that upper property?
So and perhaps the applicant can answer that better than I can, but my understanding is that their plan is essentially for what's called an office warehouse building. So you would have a warehouse bay on the ground floor and some office space above it for the same business. It's very popular in other jurisdictions. It's often strata, so that like maybe a plumber would buy one bay and an electrician would buy the next bay, and then you might get somebody at a small tech company buying the other one where there's some assembly going on inside, but they also need some office space.
Thank you. So compatible with the neighborhood industry industry work.
It's,
All
it
good.
would definitely
Yeah.
be considered an industrial use, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, for myself, just on page 165 of our agenda, we have a letter from Mr. Kenny to the district, halfway down, or I guess it's the, what is it, the fourth paragraph. It does read, "The business is called Pacific Rim Shelters Limited and is a leading distributor of steel shelters, covers, and buildings. The business has a website," and so on. So is this, has the business changed at all, or is it what is stated in our agenda?
It's the same as stated in the agenda, sir.
Okay, that's fine by me. Thank you. Through to you, Councillor Mundell.
Yeah, I'm just curious if Director Robinson can speak to the tax implications. So if we were to have no warehouse versus a warehouse in place for this business, what are the difference in tax income for the district?
That is an excellent question, Councillor. I will defer to the CFO who's sitting behind me.
So it depends on the tax rate and how much it's going to be assessed at. If the addition is $100,000, then that would equate to, I think our rate's like five mil. So, you know, it can be substantial.
Okay, because I guess my wondering is if we were to decline this request and they were to go ahead and build something, instead of having an outdoor business, which is what they're proposing here, versus a warehouse, are there going to be a significant tax change between the two? So are we going to be taxing them at the same evaluation, whether they build a warehouse on there now and run their business out of the warehouse versus this outdoor assembly business?
That's really an assessor question. I'd have to get that from BC Assessment. I'd have to pose that question to BC Assessment and see how they value the difference between a temporary structure versus a warehouse.
Right, okay, that would have been helpful to know, just because then I guess we would have an idea if supporting this would have been, you know, what the financial implications were for supporting it versus not.
Councillor Lerner and then Councillor Jones.
I just want to make sure I understand, because this is a temporary use for 7373, is that correct?
That's correct,
So
sir.
essentially, 7373 is the same ownership as the property directly below it. And the temporary use permit will allow the temporary use of the property for 2 years
That's correct, sir.
to perform this work. At the same time, the warehouse is intended to be built on the neighboring property. Okay, and then once the temporary use permit ends, a warehouse will be built on this property.
That's their plans that they've communicated to us, sir. Yes.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Jones.
Yeah, through the chair to CFO Sepola. So I think, well, I don't want to put words in Councillor Mundell's mouth, but for me, the essence of that question was, what are the tax income to the district when there is temporary outdoor assembly for the 2-year period? And then when that 2-year period's over and they move into the new building that's being done on the adjacent property, about what is the tax benefit to Lantzville from that?
When somebody asks the question, how much is the temporary building going to be worth? It's a question of assessment, really. There will be a benefit either way, but it's a question of how much is the assessment. I don't know what the assessed value will be, because lots of times building permits don't match assessment.
Yeah, go ahead, Director Robinson.
If I can speak to this, my experience in other jurisdictions is maybe you look at it as a ladder approach. Right now, the land is empty. It's very low assessed value. If you put an outdoor storage use on it, it'll be up the first rung of the assessed value, so there will be a tax increment increase. And then if you build a warehouse, you may be on the 6th or 7th rung of that ladder. So there will be an increase in the assessment that the district takes in.
Thank you very much. Just wanted that clarified. Makes sense.
I was just going to follow up. So right now, essentially, it's low assessed value because there's really no permanent structures as per, you know, the letter on 165 our agenda. So they're going to be bringing in, it looks like a mobile, fully self-contained office, no foundation, And also bringing in a fancy porta potty. So I'm gonna check that out. But, so there's no permanent changes being made, so it's gonna be a low, to ensure the use is changing, but anyways, we'll leave it there. Go ahead, Councillor Savage.
Yeah, well, that's the case, that it's always lower taxes as well without a building, but it's also the case it's up to an owner of a property when they want to put up a building. But my question, I've been curious about this for some time, but is this going to be a commercial tax rate? Is it commercial or light industrial without the building? And is it commercial or light industrial with the building?
So, light industrial is 9.6341, and business is 5.3287. So, it's going to be industrial, is what is being indicated to me. So it'll be taxed, it'll start being taxed at the 9.6341 tax rate.
Okay, yeah, and I'd love to do that exercise sometime, go through the whole industrial park, see who's paying commercial tax, who's paying a light industrial, but that's good for this one for now. Thank you.
Okay, unless there's anything further, we will get the motion on the floor. Okay. All right, someone prepared to make a motion? Go ahead, Councillor Jones.
The council approves temporary use permit number TUP 26-01 for 7373 Industrial Road to authorize the temporary use of the subject property for outdoor storage, yard assembly, and accessory office use for a period of 2 years. And further that, council grant an exemption from Development Permit Area 9, industrial form and character, for the subject property for the duration and scope of the approved temporary use permit number TUP 26-01.
Yeah, I'll second it, and then for discussion, go ahead, Councillor Jones, if you wish.
I've asked the questions that I wanted clarification on, and I support this motion. I don't have anything new to add.
Okay, as a seconder, I totally support this application for the temporary use permit. This is fantastic news. Anybody who's coming to Lantzville to invest and to create, projects and so forth is welcome. I've always thought Lantzville is open for business, and this is going to be definitely a great addition to an industrial park. We do have parcels that are sitting up there vacant, so why not, entice people to start doing good things up there? And at the end of the day, it's only going to have the net benefit of increasing our tax base, and that's a good thing for everybody in Lantzville. So I full-heartedly support it. So is there any additional comments through council? Go ahead, Councillor Mundell.
Yeah, if I can just actually ask one more question. With the passing of a temporary use permit through the staff, if there are things that come up along the way, let's say the neighboring businesses have an issue or take issue with an outdoor porta potty or whatever, noise complaints or whatever, what are there options when in regards to the temporary use?
Director Robinson.
Thank you for the question, Councillor. All other municipal bylaws continue to apply, so we would enforce noise, island health standards regarding porta potties, all those kinds of things. All you're authorizing today is the use of the land.
But if we sign this and agree to it, are we locked in for the 2 years? Or if there is issues, bylaw issues, is there a way to get out of it? Is basically what I'm asking.
I understand that a temporary use permit could be revoked. However, that's a rather extenuating circumstance. I don't think I've ever encountered that situation.
Just curious.
Sure.
Thanks.
And just for myself, on kind of following up on that, we had this as additional information and the actual temporary use permit, and there are conditions to the permit. So if those are failed, if the whatever business owner fails to meet those terms on an ongoing basis, I would see that as a vehicle to revoke the permit, and then they would have to cease operations. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, I don't think that's going to happen, but again, it's in black and white here. So, Councillor Savage, I think.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say from my perspective that this is the result of hard work. It produces good things, and it feeds families with a good wage to raise kids and so on. So the more of this, the better. And with the temporary use permit, we've had them before with things that were a little bit out of keeping with the setting, where there could have been problems with this. I don't see that it's very in keeping with all the activities I've seen there over the years. So thank you to the owners and the applicants for their hard work making all this happen over the next couple of years.
Additional speakers? Or are we done? Okay, I will move then to call into question. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. That takes us in item 8D, so we're on to the water system bylaw number 140-2018, amendment bylaw number 423-2026. So I believe we have a presentation on this. Oh, no presentation, or?
Your worship, Mr. Thurland is here. He's our water technician, so he's here to answer any questions that council may have.
Sure.
But we didn't have any additional material to present this evening.
Okay, very good then. So what we'll do is I'll get the first reading on the floor and then we can get into discussion. So that District of Lantzville Water System Bylaw number 140-2018 amendment, Schedule C Water Conservation Levels Bylaw number 432-2026 be given first reading. Is there a second? Second by Councillor Lerner, and I will just move to calling the question. And again, this just introduces the bylaw. So all those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. I'll get second reading on the floor. So that District of Lantzville Water System Bylaw number 140-2018 amendment, Schedule C, Water Conservation Levels Bylaw number 432-2026 be given second reading. Is there a seconder? Okay, seconded by Councillor Lerner, and then for discussion. So at this point, through the council, if there are questions through to staff, this would be a good time to ask said questions. Go ahead, Councillor Lerner.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I understand we have some items in Schedule C that would be added to our bylaw. I see that. I'm just pulling that up here under the digital version, Schedule C. Now, my main concern is with the second page of Schedule C, which is to basically insert the RDN's Regional Outdoor Water Conservation Framework into the R bylaw, and it says regional on it. And I'm just, my preference personally would be to amend our bylaw to be more specific to Lantzville and keep our Lantzville water restriction framework, but I just would be through to staff why the inserting the regional one.
Hi there. It's just, of course, it's our own bylaws and our own water restrictions. It's just what everybody else in the region is doing, and we are partners. We've been on regional committees for years. We just would like to end the confusion. Oh, these guys, or sorry, stage 3 is 1 day a week everywhere else, but is in Lantzville, it's voluntary. Just want to end the confusion with the public and put the message and the education out there. Yeah, we would call it our own. It's just a copy of what everybody else is doing. So, yeah, we wouldn't insert it. It would stay Lantzville.
Additional questions, Councillor Savage?
Oh, no, not a question, just comment.
Okay, or any additional questions through staff, and then we can get into debating. And so actually through to Mr. Thurland, are you sitting on the watershed or the water protection or drinking water watershed protection?
As of this year,
Committee.
yes.
Okay.
Next meeting is next Wednesday.
Yeah, and is the theme of that committee is this is the recommendation to move to the regional?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. This was brought forward actually last year, and I was very disappointed that it wasn't heard right away or heard right through. There is a pre-meeting to this meeting on Wednesday to discuss if there's any changes coming up to, any considerations for changes to the conservation levels.
Okay, and I guess one other question I have is when we move from, say, stage 2 to stage 3, is that something we still maintain control over?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, that's all I've got.
Yeah, it's all ours.
Okay, thank you. All right, okay, so the motion's being moved and seconded. It's on the floor. The mover, I have nothing to add at this point. Seconder, Councillor Savage, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, and thank you to Mr. Thurland for your efforts to look into solutions for our unusually low water this time of the year. I agree with your sentiment. I just see a different process to get there, that's all. But first, I find it odd precedent to set to have staff bring back a motion we defeated by council 12 months ago. And my opposition to this is the same as last year, in that Lantzville is an independent municipality. We're not governed by the RDN. The RDN is governed by Lantzville and other fellow municipalities and electoral areas. So in order to maintain independent water restrictions, if there are changes staff is recommending due to this unusually low water this time of the year, staff is welcome to bring amendments to our own watering restriction documents. They're two very different documents. There's the one that's the colored one, and the other one is the black and white one, the two-page one in our agenda, and they have different categories and so on. One's a made in Lantzville one. And so with these, so that's my suggestion, is to bring it back, amending our document, not the just inserting an RDN document. And in terms of the, and if there is these amendments, they should focus on years like this, where water is low this time of the season, maybe even have a separate section to deal with this sort of situation. And in terms of the Nanaimo Water Agreement, Section 8.1 says, as a principle, that restrictions on water use in Lantzville should be consistent with those in place in Nanaimo. It doesn't say the same, it says consistent with. And since 2018, when this agreement was activated, this Section 8.1 issue hasn't been a problem. Lantzville's always been responsible with its water use and its restrictions. So we can have our own made in Lantzville restrictions and still be consistent with Nanaimo's restrictions. And I would mention one way we waste water is leakage. I think we have, if my memory serves me correct, about a 16% leakage rate. And we just replaced all the pipes on Millard and Lynn Drive. And that's very helpful. These new pipes leak far less. So that's one approach we can take, is to start replacing more of our pipes along the lines of that. So, and especially when we start receiving more Nanaimo water, this leaking will be leaking water we're paying for from Nanaimo, whereas with our own water, it's free in the ground, it's the infrastructure where the cost is. So anyway, that's, in conclusion, that's my summary, is for staff is welcome to bring back what they're suggesting to handle our situation this summer, but to do it by amending our own water restrictions, not following, just inserting the RDNs. It's important we maintain our independence, and this is another way we can do it. For example, if we wanted to have stricter water restrictions one year, I don't want to be beholden to what the RDN's doing. We'll have our own tailor-made one, so thank you.
Okay, additional comments? Go ahead, Councillor Jones.
Yes, so for those who want to listen to the detailed discussion that we had on this motion, which is a motion that was defeated by Council May 14th, 2025, I refer you to that video For me, I agree with what Councillor Savage has said. There are actually many things that I like about our water restriction policy here. For example, we don't have mandatory dates that says, level 1 restrictions begin April 1st. And it can be up to our staff to interpret the need for going to restrictions, and they may well recommend that we go to that level sooner than April 1st, or it might be raining cats and dogs all of April, and it may be put down the road a few weeks. So I think that's a flexibility that is important. If there are things in our restrictions which are problematic for the RDN, then I think we should look at those. We should be consistent. It's a terminology, not must, but should, and I have no problem with, making an effort to be consistent in areas where there may be some feeling that we should do so. The independence that we have as a municipality, I feel, is important to maintain, although I do understand the simplicity of everybody following the same path. That's been something that residents of Lantzville have been quite vocal about since 2003 when we became a municipality. For me, I think water, restriction is very important. I'm not using the word conversation. I refer you to previous discussion on that on May 14th. But restriction is important, and not only do we need to, tidy up these leaks, plug these leaks, which we have in our own system, but we also, I think, need some program of education out there. There's still a lot of residents watering their lawns. There's no need to water a lawn. Lawns can go brown, the grass will come back. We can let it do that without taking water to keep them looking green and pretty. And other municipalities have been through this. The lawns seem to be a charged one when it comes to water, and I think it was Vancouver that actually started a competition for the most beautiful brown lawn. But my point is simply that education is a worthy step to make. So I'll leave it there. I do not support the motion.
Okay, Councillor Lerner?
Yeah, I recall this being debated in 2025. I think I voted in favor, although I could be wrong. I think I was on the losing side of that argument, but I could be remembering incorrectly. That if I understand the concern that's being expressed around the table, I don't want to put words in other people's mouths, but is the importance to retain our independence as far as our bylaw is concerned. My understanding, and I could be wrong about this, but my understanding is that this would be amending our bylaw. So it is still Lantzville bylaw number 140/2018, but it is now inserting wording that is the same as other areas. Not identical, because parts of it are still ours, and we still retain control of when we go to phase 2. We still retain control of when we go to phase 3. So there's a couple options here. One is to vote on this, and if it passes, it passes. If it's defeated, it's defeated. I know it was defeated last time. I do think that it's important for us to amend our bylaw to close what I personally see as some loopholes. So for example, Schedule C, which is what we're being asked to add, talks about permit, new sod and new seeded lawns and how long they can be sprinkled for. So for example, it says 14 days after an installation with the permit that was used to install it. So it just has some, and it says that permits for lawn sodding will not be issued during level 3 and 4. So there's just a couple little things like that. So my personal suggestion, I would rather see this not defeated, but amended. So in that case, one option is to refer this back to staff to essentially take our existing bylaw and do, sometimes we get those bylaws that have the red wording in it that shows it almost like a text edit of, exactly which words are being changed in our bylaw. If that's going to be more palatable for council, then I would prefer to refer to staff to do that and come back, you know, in a week or in 2 or 3 weeks, whenever our next couple meetings are with that, as opposed to defeating it outright. But I look forward to seeing if that's a solution the rest of council would consider.
Okay, I'll speak to it next, and we can keep going around the horn on this one. You know, I totally support the amendment to the bylaw. This is you know, yes, it is a regional kind of conservation framework, and I'm totally fine with that. The other neighboring municipalities and electoral areas are doing it. I think it's kind of odd that, you know, we're not going to do it, and it makes no sense. You know, we have the water experts telling us or guiding us that this is what we should be doing, and anyways, it sounds like it may actually fail, which is kind of shocking to me. But I don't see this as any threat to us losing any autonomy and us as a municipality is making decisions as we are making, you know, changes as Councillor Lerner has already put out there. We're changing our bylaw tonight. We can change it again. We can change it as many times as we want if it's not working. But you know, I don't want to bore council with my comments because, you know, it's already been made comment about May 14th. We've already debated this. Council decided on this and so forth. So I 100% support this. I have not heard a convincing argument why not to support it. So I'll leave my remarks there. Councillor Mundell, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm too a little confused how this came back to us, but here we are, talking about it again. And I have no problem with Lantzville being independent in certain areas. And I am fine if this is one of those areas that we determine what's best for our community. Yes, we are, you know, partners with the RDN, but our municipalities are very different within the RDN. From, you know, Cedar to Lantzville, things differ a lot. And I like that we can customize and make what makes sense for Lantzville to happen in Lantzville. And the communities are so vast and different based on what is going on with their different water systems and sources and supplies that I don't think having a blanket system is the best way to go in this case. So I'm fine for Lantzville to have their own way of doing things and our own system of managing our water conservation. So, and we do this in different areas too. It doesn't mean just because the RDN is doing one thing that we have to follow suit. We have our own ways of managing and moderating, and I think that's understandable. And again, the RDN is a very large area, very large. So what happens in one community doesn't necessarily always exactly look the same in another. So I'm fine with us doing our own thing.
Chief Rukas.
Just a couple of comments from myself, through yourself to the council, and then I'll throw it back over to the water operator who has a few comments as well. Some of this, just so you know, has been brought forward with conversations between myself and the water operator in regards to fire protection for Lantzville itself. As we move into wildfire season and we move into the drier weather, we really are seeing a large drop in the well water that we have. And while the Nanaimo water is an avenue that we can use, it can't keep up to the firefight that may occur one day in the foothills. Some of the preliminary numbers that we ran was within an hour and 30 minutes, we could be out of water in the foothills for fighting a fire. It's super important that we get in line and do something to conserve our water. We're seeing the water in the foothills already dropping at a scary rate, and it's hard to keep up. So I think we need to hammer this out and figure out something that works for Lantzville. The one thing about this is I don't think you need to think of it as a regional district telling Lantzville what to do. We're really talking about a regional approach of a campaign that regardless of where you come from, you understand what the rules are in that general vicinity. And while I agree that the water conservation from one area to another is different, overall, this is kind of just the best practice to maintain the water for all of these areas and have us all on the same page. So if I can just throw it back over to Eric here, he has a few comments for you. Thanks.
Is this still on, I think?
Yeah, it's still on.
Councilor Lerner was absolutely correct. This is our bylaw. We're not inserting anything. It was just a framework picture. Level 3, stage 3 voluntary does not work here. There's zero reduction in consumption in the last 4 years here. In fact, it's gone up. The last 4 years, we have exceeded our withdrawal license from our Harvey Road well field in the last 4 years. And in 2025, we exceeded it by 38,000 cubic meters. We haven't heard from the province. What I'm saying is level 3 doesn't work. We need to incorporate our own 1 day a week, see what happens. Level 4, no lawn watering, consumption dropped by 12% over the last couple of years. We have to maintain our reservoir levels. Our storage is not sufficient. We'll definitely be on the NIMO again. We're on that trajectory as 2023, the same trajectory as of right now. Yesterday was the first day we exceeded our daily maximum withdrawal from a well field of 1,400 cubic meters. We were over. So that's what all I can say is we're not savvy water savers here. Like Councillor Jones says, an education program, we're trying to get there. So with the regional effort, that can help us getting these things done. So that's all I can say.
While we got you there, I just had a quick question for you, Mr. Thurland. Just with the drinking watershed protection program and the participating municipality electoral areas and so forth, are there any areas that have withdrawn or are not using this regional conservation
None that I know of.
framework? Okay, that's all I had for you. I have Councillor Lerner, Councillor Savage, and then Councillor Jones.
Well, I don't want to.
That's okay. You can keep speaking. Don't worry
I don't
about
want to
that.
cut anyone else off, but
No, you're
basically,
fine.
what it sounds like there's mixed opinions around the table. This was debated last year, was defeated. It sounds like it might be defeated again. I think the concern, if I'm hearing correctly, and I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, is that we're all concerned about water conservation, and we all want to make sure our restrictions are effective. We all want to make sure that we have the firefighting capacity that we need. I'm assuming those things. But it sounds like there are concerns over the way this particular amendment is worded, in that it uses wording, it's still our bylaw and it's still our control, but it uses wording that is specifically similar to or identical to what's being used throughout the RDN. So my recommendation is, and I was going to make the motion, but I'm not going to cut off the debate. My recommendation is to refer this back to staff to come back with edits to our bylaw that close these loopholes without necessarily using identical wording. And hopefully that'll be more palatable to council as a whole, while still closing some of the loopholes that we're seeing. So it sounds like, for example, right now stage 3 is entirely voluntary on some things, and that's not working. The voluntary is not actually coming down with any reduction in water, so it's kind of useless. So, if it's a matter of amending where we're having whatever we want to call it, loopholes, inefficiencies, things that aren't working, maybe that's how we solve this, and then it goes back to staff and in 2 weeks, a month, whenever they come back with those amendments, and then we vote on them as to whether we think that satisfies. But that would be my recommendation. And that way, we're not necessarily saying we're not going to do anything, but we're saying we're going to do it very much within the framework of Lantzville.
Councillor Savage and then Councillor Jones.
Yes, this is not a dispute about where we're getting. It's simply how we get there. That's what it's about. So we're certainly supportive if more water savings are needed for this year. And I just wanted to point out, Councillor Lerner, that it's not optional in the RDN one when phase 2 or level 2 starts, that's prescribed right in the bylaw. It starts May 1st to October 31st. And I don't consider these loopholes. Loopholes are when you look for angles or ways to get around something. And none of that is going on in our water restriction. It's all laid out clearly. There's nothing hidden here. It's just there's certain things in ours I like better than this one. I like the flexible starting date for level 1 or stage 1 and stage 2 are optional. That's up to us. In the RDN one, it's mandatory. I like that we have a separate category for watering lawns. The RDN one doesn't have that. It just calls it watering times, which would not prevent lawns from being watered. It doesn't even address lawns in the RDN one. It only addresses new lawn permits. So I like the fact we have watering lawns. It gives us the flexibility to say no lawn watering early in the game. If that's in a year like this year, that's quite the savings. So it's not just the fact that it's an RDN document. It's ours, I believe, is far more targeted, far more specific. And I totally agree with Councillor Lerner. We've heard concerns from Mr. Thurlan and from our fire chief that they would appreciate the ability to be able to have water savings, but I would point out that it's perfectly within staff's right to go straight to stage 4. And there's your maximum water savings. So all I would like is what current Councillor Lerner has suggested is please feel free to come back as soon as you like. Could be next meeting if you want, and to put what you're recommending within the framework of our water restrictions. So you're leaving the same categories and working with them. And the other thing I would suggest, it sounds like Councillor Lerner wants to make the motion, I'll let him make it. But I would suggest if you're doing that to have a category with different options specifically for times like this where we have such low water this time of the year. So you might go straight to some of the stage 4 restrictions, but you might leave a couple of the stage 1 restrictions which don't add up too much. If you get my drift, you mix and match these different stages, but please do it within the Lantzville one. I don't want to lose some of these valuable categories like the micro drip irrigation. It doesn't exist in the RDN and so on. So I just like all these different categories. So I'll leave it at that, and when Councillor Lerner is ready to make his motion, then I'll support it. Thank you.
Councillor Jones and then myself.
Yes, it's can be helpful to take the 2 pages in the agenda, page 218 and page 224, and put them side by side for some of these comparisons. I am all in favor of our staff having the authority to provide the restrictions, make recommendations for restrictions if there's changes that you feel are important to our existing. I feel that, sorry to weigh in with my opinion, but I actually feel ours is a superior one. For example, looking at stage 3 with the RDN, there is permitted watering times. Doesn't exactly say for what, but it does include washing vehicles, boats, housing, and siding. I think it would include gardens, but it doesn't say. But ours is very clear about all of that. It says, rather than the RDN, which says you can do it and this is when you can do it, ours says, well, we would like you to, but it's voluntary. So we actually have a more stringent one here, assuming some people voluntarily do that. And we can easily change stage 3 to make that a little bit more restrictive if that is what the experts on staff feel it would be advisable. So there are some categories that we have here that they do not have on the RDN1, watering ornamental shrubs, flowers, and trees. That's pretty important. Watering vegetable gardens or fruit. That is another important one as well, given that many people in Lantzville have fruit trees and vegetable gardens. So I would be fine defeating this tonight, but doing a separate motion, invite staff to come back if they see some ways they'd like to amend the one we have now to make it better, then I think council should consider that, and I'd be very open to it. But I don't think that it's superior going to the RDN one. Thank you.
Okay, I've got myself and then Councillor Mundell. I guess question through the staff, I don't know who can answer, but can we not move to stage 4 at any time? Or does staff have the authority, with the utility to just go to stage 4? So I'm getting a nod from the back there. Okay, thank you. The way I see it is the conservation framework, the regional one, it does give a lot of flexibility and so forth before going to a harsh stage 4 ban or even further. So I guess the next question through the staff, can you go beyond what's in the stage 4? Can you, so there's, okay, so we have to follow that part. Okay, which is, I find a bit troubling because, I think as a utility, we have staff that are qualified to run it and monitor it 24/7, have a very intimate knowledge of how everything's working and so forth. And, if we had to go to a very high level restriction, I would totally support that as well. Because even stage 4 does give some options for watering but nonetheless, again, we participate as a municipality in the drinking water watershed protection program. This is the culmination of all the work that's being done and is flowing out of that program through the RDN. And that's not saying just because everybody's doing it, we should do it too. But I do think when you put that many minds together that are specializing in water, to me that trumps what this council is doing. And sorry, councillors may not like hearing that, but I think the opinion of the collective group of those water experts completely outweighs what we're doing here. And we should be following the recommendation, or we must, in my opinion, we should be following the expert advice that we're receiving tonight. I won't support an amendment because I think that is cheapening out what we're trying to achieve here. It's not the right path forward. I'd rather have this thing fail and rather than limp along and try and amend it to death, because the recommendation that we have in front of us is the right path, in my opinion, and I think that opinion is shared by a lot of water experts that are out there. Thank you. Councillor Mundell.
Yeah, and the reason I'm wanting to stay with our own is because I do feel it's more conservative. Hearing from our fire chief, that's the reasons why I want to stay with our own bylaw, is because I feel like the RDNs may be too loose in this regard, and we have the ability to be more restrictive. And I encourage our staff to be more restrictive. Put the restrictions in early, put them now if needed, go to the stages more quickly than what would have been done with the RDN if we feel like we are in a bad place. Go to stage 4 sooner. Again, that's the whole reason that I want to stick with our own framework, is because I feel like that's what we're gonna get, is the ability to be like, well, the RDN is doing this and it's kind of, there. Well, I guess that's sort of, maybe we should stick with this time frame that they've suggested. No, if we're in April or May and if things are looking bad, then let's go to stage 4 sooner than what is recommended. We need to be more able to customize to what our community needs. So that's why I'm actually wanting to be more conservative than what they're suggesting. So I feel like that's what ours can do. So impose higher restrictions quicker.
Okay, Councillor Lerner.
Okay, yeah, I agree with everything that's being said. We should be maintaining our own independence, and I actually think, to be honest, that the motion on the floor does that, because if the motion said Lantzville's bylaw will be changed to say the RDN's bylaw applies, I would gladly defeat that. Or if it said Lantzville will go to stages when the rest of the RDN does, I would gladly defeat that. But that's not what it says. It says we're amending our bylaw to incorporate certain things. Now, I agree that there are things in that chart that I don't like. But I think that was more of an example. But I'm gonna make the motion, and we'll see what happens. The council refer the motion on the floor to staff to return to council with their suggested amendments to Lantzville's own bylaw number 140/2018. And further that these amendments maintain Lantzville-specific categories, timing, wording, and independence.
Okay, second by Councillor Savage, and
Oh, sure, if I may, I'll repeat that for staff. I'll start from the beginning. That council refer the motion on the floor to staff to return to council with their suggested amendments to Lantzville's own bylaw number 140/2018. And further that these amendments maintain Lantzville-specific categories, timing, wording, and independence. Okay.
and again, that was seconded by Councillor Savage, and then if you wish to speak to your or to the referral motion.
No, basically, my hope is that it'll basically be we get those bylaws that have the red wording and it tracks exact changes. It'll come back and we'll see specifically, for example, it'll still say Lantzville, it'll be Lantzville's chart, it'll be the categories we already have, but it might say instead of, voluntary in stage 3, it might be required or in a certain spot or something, whatever staff are seeing as needed in order to achieve what they're trying to achieve. And hopefully council will be able to read through that and see if it solves the concerns that are being expressed around this table. And if it doesn't, that's fine. But I think that this is a way to hopefully satisfy everyone's concerns and get to the heart of the matter, which is finding ways to tighten things, so to speak.
Councillor Savage.
Yes, I'll support this, and I would encourage staff to do whatever's necessary in summers like this where the water is so low at this point, because in the 40 years I've lived here, I've never seen a year where residents weren't very supportive of water restrictions. It's like it's automatic in Lantzville from everything I've seen. There's no resentment to them. So if this is a really tough year, I would suggest we get we work with residents who will work with us. I am absolutely certain to get really strict at the start so that we really get into that mode. Fire is always a risk with, if we're going to have a hot summer combined with these low water levels, then we really have to make sure that's the number one priority, is making sure we have enough. That's the number one job, is to make sure we have enough water for fire control. And the other thing I would suggest while you're doing this is to make sure that it's flexible so that we don't have the most stringent regulations for this year, and they stay in place for all future years where it's quite a mild, wet summer. So I'd like to see some flexibility there so we can go right to the extreme when it's really extreme summers, and right back to a little more leniency, especially for gardeners and so on in the milder summers. That's what I would like to see. So thank you.
Okay, I will speak next, and then we get Councillor Jones. So Yeah, I won't be supporting the referral motion. We have a solution that's being presented tonight, a very well thought out one that comes highly recommended from our staff. I'm not going to go against staff's advice, again on this. So I'll just leave my remarks there. Yeah, go ahead, CEO Lasher, and then Councillor Jones.
I just want to clarify for council the independence question that keeps coming up. If there is an emergency wildfire, the RDN sets up the emergency operations, and then eventually, after regional district has set up their emergency operations for our potential wildfire, then the province takes over. So to talk about us being independent, I don't see that independence in a wildfire situation. And just to be very clear, it took Eric several years, several exams to reach a level 3 water operator status ticket, which is super rare to have. I mean, it is like I remember a municipality that couldn't even find a level 2, let alone a level 3. So when our level 3 water operator is telling us, due to his ticket, that we need to make some changes and the citizens of Lantzville are not saving water, I would consider him the subject matter expert, and I would consider him the authority on this subject. And I would never want to go against my water operator based on his knowledge, ticket, 30 years experience, 25, I can't remember. And I'm just saying we are not foregoing independence. We will if there's a wildfire. RDN will take over and we have no choice. Then the province will take over. And I can tell you 2 Saturdays ago, the fire chief phoned me at home and there was somebody burning garbage 2 Saturdays ago. And he had to figure it out on his own. So I'm just saying we're not losing independence by doing any of this.
Councillor Jones.
Yes, thank you. So I won't be supporting the amendment because we've heard many times staff is very busy. They have a lot to do, and I don't want to push their buttons to be doing red text edits to a document. They can easily come to council if there are edits to this document that they would like to see, and I'm sure council will give that their full attention. I would rather see, action that goes beyond the paperwork to actually taking a close look, which staff has the authority to do, and I'd like to keep it that way. They can move us to stage 4 sooner. They can move us to stage 1 and 2 at their discretion. That is a flexibility that is not in the RDN guidelines. So I would rather our resources go towards managing things the way we need to here. We are a unique community. And as such, I think we need to recognize that with us relying on well water, where NYMA's dealing with a river. There are different considerations there, perhaps. We certainly aren't the same. But I think we have a very good, I've said why I think it's actually better, a program here, and we have the ability to do more, and education would be key to that. So that's where I'd like to see our time and energy go. And so I'm sorry, but I won't be supporting the amendment. I just don't want to put another bit of work on staff's shoulders, which is paper related, not action related.
Okay, so, well, it's a referral motion. Yeah, go ahead, Chief.
Just wanted to add something. Sorry, just as it comes up. Let's put it this way. Even right now, today, the last week, since the beginning of May, we only produce 1,100 liters per minute from the Harvey Road well field. If there's 2,600, 2,800 going out, where do we get that from? We're gonna have to turn on an island. And that's been happening. I've lost a reservoir, I dropped a reservoir down to less than 80%, trying to fill everything. Last Friday, we started supplementing the Foothills Reservoir. Their well is completely at low level. So we're on target. Last year, we went on stage 3 restrictions on May 28th. We're looking that way. And might even forego stage 3 because it's completely useless. It doesn't do anything. We'll go straight to stage 4. So we're allowing people in stage 2 now to water every day of the week, 2 times per day, to absolutely zero, with stage 3 being nothing. So just another thought for consideration.
Okay, first time, go ahead, Councillor Mandel, and then Councillor Lerner.
Yeah, just in response to that, good. So let's go and change. That's why I like ours, is because we can go and we are seeing now what the changes are and what needs to happen. So let's make that change. If we need to go straight to 4, we go straight to 4. We have to be careful. We have to be managing our water, just because, again, this schedule says May to 1st to October 31st, and every other day people are watering and whatnot. That is not obviously what's going to probably work for our community if we're already running out of water. So I love that we have the ability to say, okay, let's go straight to level 4, and let's not necessarily worry about people going, hey, but it says in the schedule for the RDN that we're supposed to be on level 2 from May 1st to October. Yes, I know it says that it can go in as required, but people will refer to this and they will be upset that we're not sticking to the chart. So I like that we can take a look at our levels right now and say, okay, we're in a bad place. So let's go to the highest level as soon as possible. Let's do it tomorrow if we need to. So again, that's exactly the reasons why I want to stick with our own, so that we don't have to worry about people referring to this chart and saying I should be able to stay at stage 2 till October 31st. So I hear what you're saying. I understand that you want to be more conservative with the water, and that's exactly why I want to stick with our own program and our own language.
Yeah, just as a point of clarification, just so I understand correctly, with the regional one, we can go to stage 4 at any time, correct? Yeah, okay. So Councillor Lerner, and then I'm going to call the question on the referral.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, first of all, I did not make an amendment. I made a referral, and the referral is to send it to staff to come back not with this. The referral says, these amendments maintain Lantzville-specific categories, timing, wording, and independence. In other words, we are not accepting this. We're rejecting it. We're now sending it back to staff to come forward with the changes that they feel are required to our own. It says, suggest amendments to Lantzville's own bylaw, number 140, 2018. So I'm acknowledging that there is not the support around this table to adopt what's before us. So what I'm saying is, let's refer it back to staff to come back with our changes to our own. Because right now, the problem is that our own is flawed. It has some really good things in it, but it has stage 3, which we either have to, stage 3 is basically useless at this point, is what we're hearing. So you can have stage 2 or you can have stage 4, and there's nothing in between that's working. The change between 2 and 3 is 0%. And what staff are saying is that they want to have something in between. And in our bylaw, and I agree, we don't need to put the RDN's dates or anything like that, which is why I worded my motion that way. The other thing that I would say is that we have, I know maybe loophole isn't a popular word, but there are things to do with seeding and sodding and stuff that our bylaw doesn't currently properly address. We've been told in our agenda, and so that's the other thing. So anyway, I hope that this will pass and that it'll go back to staff. If we want to keep our own bylaw, and if we want to have 100% independence with our own wording, then while still closing these loopholes and fixing these shortfalls, I think that that's what this achieves. But anyway, I'll leave it there.
Okay, I'm going to move to call in the question on the referral motion. All those in favor and opposed, or any member remains opposed, referral motion carries. Councillor Jones is opposed. Okay, it still carries. Okay, so that takes us under 11, so we have, what, give me sure. Yeah, I'm not gonna, so we have under the annual report, and just through the council, or sorry, yeah, the annual water report, just to be mindful of time, because that, we do have a invited guest for an in-camera session, and it starts at 8 o'clock, so we may have to suspend the agenda to get to that, but we'll see. All right, so we have the annual water report. So I'll just get the motion on the floor that the report dated May 20th, 2026, titled 2025 District and Lantzville Annual Water Report be received for information. Is there a seconder to that? Second by Councillor Lerner. Through to, this is a time to ask questions through to Mr. Thurland. He's here as our subject matter expert. So through to council, any questions with regarding the information provided in the report? Councillor Savage, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to thank Mr. Thurland for a thorough report. I always enjoy reading these. I get a lot of water knowledge every time I do, so thanks very much. It's a good one this year.
Okay, any additional comments? All right. I will then move to call in question then. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. We have next is strategic planning. Oh, sorry, yeah, yeah. So go ahead, Councillor Savage, you have your motion. Go ahead and read it.
Council directs staff to ensure the Phase 1 and Phase 2 village gardens are adequately watered by the irrigation system in order that all plantings thrive from May to October.
Okay, is there a seconder to that? Okay.
Just trying to get the information.
All right, so second by Councillor Lerner, Councillor Savage.
Yeah, I just see this as a housekeeping measure. Just briefly, last summer, some of the Phase 2 plants died. Many had dieback, and there was some dieback on a couple of valuable pines. And last summer, some of the Phase 2 it's important for the first few years to adequately water plants in the heat. And in Iowa, Parksville, Qualicum, and Victoria continue to irrigate their essential public gardens during times of water restrictions to protect these assets. And Greater Victoria includes watering their play fields. So this is a very small garden area in Lantzville, one of our few public gardens. So it's just a matter of pride to keep them. We don't want to end up with a dead garden there. So, and Lantzville doesn't have the labor to hand water. So we installed the irrigation system, and in Victoria, they have it go in the middle of the night to at the time of least demand. And it's the most effective in a cool night, giving it a water, that's all. So it's not a lot of water that'll be used. It's just to make sure it gets done. You just need to set the irrigation sprinkler, and it's done. It doesn't take any labor per se. So anyway, that's basically it. It's just a reminder to ensure that our plantings survive. Thank you.
Councillor Jones, and then myself.
Yes, I think one thing that we can remind ourselves of is that the design of the Phase 2 is all with drought-tolerant plants. Now, drought-tolerant plants does not mean you can pop them when they're root-bound in a pot, stick them in the ground, and not water them. What drought-tolerant means is that once they are established, they will not want to be watered frequently. And I didn't say they don't need to be, I said they won't want to be. What happens, we've seen it in Phase 1 actually, where they planted grasses and watered them quite liberally year after year, and they spread and spread and spread. I actually confessed to making the same mistake in my own front yard, which is all garden. So we need to protect our investments. We have a good investment in drought-tolerant tolerant plants. They do need to be watered until they're established, and that watering means they should be deeply watered, but not frequently. So rather than putting the water on every day for 10 minutes, there would be a different plan. I'm sure staff is aware of this, and I would just like, as a member of council, to be very supportive of our Public Works Department being able to take the appropriate care for that garden to protect our investment. And in a short period of time, maybe 2-3 years at the most, we'll find that they probably don't need to be watered at all. The drought-tolerant garden that I planted in our front yard, I did actually spend the money for an irrigation system, but I'm proud to say that after 5 years, I don't need it. It went through last summer, 4 months of no rain with no water, and everything was just fine. So we will get there. This is temporary. Thank you.
Okay, for myself, I won't be supporting the motion simply because this is just something it's operational in nature. If there was ever a concern, and I think the concerns have already been brought up to staff, that staff will ensure that our gardens will not die. It's just that simple. I don't believe it, we should even be chatting about it right now. This is purely operational, and to do this by motion, I just don't think is reflects well on council and directing staff what to do, when considering we already have a CAO and we also have another director that's actually directing the Public Works Department in their course of action and their work list and plan every day. So I'll leave my remarks there. And any additional speakers? Oh, yeah, go ahead, Chief Rukas.
Thanks through the chair to council. So I spoke with the parks / garden person that we have in Public Works that is taking care of the phases of the village here, and he's given me this information that I'll pass on to you. The phase 1 zone 1 runs at 3 a.m. for 30 minutes. Zone 2 runs at 4 a.m. for 30 minutes every day. This is the same schedule that it was on last year. The Phase 2 section runs at 4:30, and it runs Zone 1, 2, and 3 in 15 and 19-minute increments on every other day. So there is a process in place. The system is on and running currently. And he is monitoring that, as well as he's made mention in here as well that there was some issue with maybe some of the water getting to some of the plants, and that he's spent some considerable time starting to clean that up and making sure that everything's getting the water that's needed. Thank you.
Okay, additional speakers, or you can call the question on this. Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor and opposed, or any members remains opposed, it carries. Takes us on to item 11B now. This is strategic planning. So someone prepared to make this motion? Or yeah, CEO Lasher, go ahead.
I emailed council saying I'm available Wednesday, June 3rd at 5 to 6 p.m. for an in-camera meeting with in-camera topics only.
Okay, so Councillor Savage, do you need to make your motion, or what would you like to do? It's your motion.
Sure, well, I move that we support the meeting of, I move that we have a meeting with CAO Lasher on June 3rd, 5 p.m. in-camera meeting.
Okay, is there a seconder to that? Second by Councillor Jones, and then discussion. Anything, Councillor Savage?
No, just thanks very much, CAO Lasher, very much appreciated.
And through to Councillor Jones. Okay, through the rest of the council. Okay, hearing nothing, I will move to call in the question then. All those in favor, opposed, that's carried unanimously. That takes us on to 11C. So we have the Next Generation 911 grant. So I don't know if there's any, I'll just get the motion on the floor. That council approves the submission to the 2026 Next Generation 911 grant program and authorize the Regional District Nanaimo to submit the grant application on behalf of the District of Lantzville and to receive, administer, and manage the grant funding associated with the Regional Reflective Addressing Initiative. So Councillor Savage is seconder. Through to Chief Rukas, is there anything further to the report?
The only thing that I would put out there is this is 100% grant funded. Again, basically, we'd be running the exact same program that we ran before, using funds through this grant. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing, Councillor, well, except for I support this. Go ahead, Councillor Savage.
Yes, thank you. Reflective address signs, my favorite topic, and through Chair to the Chief, are these going to be the same signs, and is there a timetable for you can expect?
Yes, there'll be the same signs in Lantzville, not necessarily in the regional district or in Parksville. They may have their own different unique signs. We've asked that ours be identical to what we've already started to keep the same look. And the timeline for the grant is 1 year from the time it is given.
I'm sorry, the grant is which one?
It's a 1-year grant. It has to be completed within 1 year.
So we'll find out in 1 year?
Oh, no, we'll find out shortly. Yeah.
Oh, great, thank you.
Okay, any additional debate, comments before I call the question? Okay, all those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. That takes us into item 11D. So this is the Lantzville Recreation Association request. So I'll just make the motion that staff work with the Lantzville Recreation Association to garner their input for the layout and installation of 2 pickleball courts and 1 volleyball court on the community service lands at, so I've modified the motion slightly, so at 7915 West Clark Drive or other suitable publicly owned land, and further that the District of Lantzville partner with the Lantzville Recreation Association with future grant applications where nonprofit partners are required by the grant providers, and further that the final, make sure I got this right. Yeah, the final approval of new District of Lantzville recreation facilities is at council's sole discretion, period. There's a seconder. Second by Councillor Lerner. And
Yeah, and as a point of privilege, please.
What's your point of privilege?
Could you just read the motion again? Sorry, you've got
Well,
some
everything's,
changes here.
Yeah, the only change is after the community service lands, I've deleted the words adjacent to the road.
Okay.
And then I've added another, and further that, the final approval of new District of Lantzville recreational facilities is at council's sole discretion.
Great, thank you.
I believe staff have sent out, or have handed out.
It was distributed to council as well.
Yeah, it's the
so
last
it is-
page, and it was emailed out today as well. What's your last?
Yeah.
Right there. It's the last document with the staple in it in your stack. Okay, yeah, through to council, I sent out a brief report. It just outlined the motion, and then it also just has a few pictures just with the dimensions of the pickleball courts as well as volleyball courts. We also did have a submission from the Lantzville Recreation Association talking about sound and so forth, and provided some additional information. I think the motion is pretty self-explanatory. It is to invite the Lantzville Recreation Association in to provide further input regarding the layout installation, but it's non-committal. Basically, it's, to the lands at Clark Drive have, been obviously identified multiple times now, as this seems to be the most suitable, publicly suitable land available in the district that I know of. So that's being highlighted again. And basically at this point, looking at also partnering with the Lantzville Recreation Association in applying for any grant applications. So the funding, there's no funding commitment here either. It is looking at grant funding to see if we can partner with the Lantzville Recreation Association, which my understanding is now a nonprofit organization or a registered nonprofit. And also it doesn't limit us to using just Clark Drive. This also could include potentially putting in a volleyball court at the school. So on the district-owned lands at the school and so on. But there's multiple grants that are available out there that require nonprofit partners, and you know, we as a municipality can't necessarily directly apply for these grants, and they're forever changing as well. So one year there could be a grant available to a nonprofit, next year it's not. So an example of that is the co-op. They had a grant a few years ago, and but it's no longer available from what I understand. But there's other ones out there for instance, the Recreation Foundation of BC Community Gaming Grants. There's a Volleyball BC Facility Fund, but that one's a little bit more complex and may require additional courts be created. But there are a number of grant partners out there that the district could be using a nonprofit partner to go in on trying to get funding for either pickleball or for volleyball. And that's just a start. If there are other opportunities present, as the association is committed to looking at all aspects of recreation in the district, there could be other opportunities that come up as well, but it's not named specifically in the motion. The motion specifically relates to pickleball and volleyball. So I'll leave my remarks there. And I think Councillor Lerner, you were the seconder if you wish.
Sure. Yeah, this whole thing has become a little bit more complicated than I thought it would be, and it's a little bit difficult one for me. I support pickleball and volleyball in our communities in general. I think having recreational facilities for the people of Lantzville is great. One of the first things I asked when I was elected was, why are the tennis courts not usable? And we've looked at that, and I'm pleased to see that the restoration of the tennis courts is on our 2027 plan. Now, I know that we did receive a delegation that had at the last meeting that had mentioned moving the money from the 127,000 from tennis to pickleball. I will note, however, that particular grant is specific to tennis, and I don't think we need to limit ourselves. I think we can restore the tennis courts and still look at things like volleyball somewhere in the community. I think that we actually did refer volleyball and pickleball both to the Parks and Trails Committee, which I think is the appropriate avenue, in the sense that every resident of Lantzville is given the same opportunity to apply to a committee, and every resident of Lantzville has the same deadline and the same application form and gets voted in potentially by an elected body. So that, I think, is probably the best venue to go through. When it comes to Clark Drive, I don't know. I'm glad the motion says other areas. I don't know if Clark Drive it might be the best area right now. I don't know if it is a perfect area because it's surrounded by land that is in a phased development agreement that the owner, I don't know whoever will buy that site will be thrilled about the idea of pickleball immediately in the middle of their housing development, but it is something that could turn out to be the best site. It might not. I will note that Saanich has developed specific guidelines for pickleball. It's called the Saanich Guidelines for Distances and Mitigation Measures for Pickleball Courts. And it actually requires that if the courts are within 50 meters and 110 meters of residential structures, they have to have certain mitigation measures. And if the courts are 152 meters, if they are, they also say if it's within 152 meters to 182 meters, which is quite a ways, of residential properties or other noise-sensitive areas, they have to be reviewed by an acoustics professional during the site selection phase. So I think that's something that would be important, that an acoustic professional, whatever site in the future is chosen for pickleball, if we choose one, that an acoustic professional come in and look at that. There is my main concern with the motion is the timeline, is the sense that it basically directs staff to start working on something. And we've heard many, many times from staff that the capital plan for 2026, I'm not saying this court would be built in 2026, is very, very full. We have $6.5 million in infrastructure work and another, I think $17.5 million in grant dependent work. So some of those things might not happen immediately, but for example, we've applied for a grant for a reservoir expansion that could happen this year. That's a massive project. We have some things that staff have indicated are urgent, which includes Dickinson Road. The Roming Road culvert is an emergency almost. So these things are things staff have told us. And so if this was a motion to get input from nonprofits and from Parks and Trails in order to inform our 2027 capital plan, that's something I think I could support because, but I did actually, we received that delegation, we received a letter indicating that needed to be almost imminent that pickleball was formed. And this is on the public record, so I'm not sharing anything confidential here. This is on the public record. I did reply, and I said, staff have indicated a full capacity for their work plan, meaning the earliest pickleball is likely to be possible for construction is 2027. Of course, this would be based on the next iteration of the financial plan, 2027 to 2031. And I did receive a reply from the LRA, which quoted that, and directly beneath it wrote, your proposed timeline for considering a budget of 2026 to 2027 further supports our concerns and is totally unacceptable. And the words totally unacceptable were underlined. So I don't know what to do with this motion because the way it's worded, it essentially indicates imminent work. And again, if this was, we've already referred this to the Parks and Trails, if this was to get input from Parks and Trails, and I don't think it should just be the LRA either. I think the LRA is great, and I'm sure they host wonderful events, but I think we should also be talking to Snanawas as our First Nations partner. I think we should be talking to the school district to see what the kids would use. I think we should be talking to some of our seniors groups and the Rotary and stuff. So I have mixed opinions on this. But I almost think this should be considered as part of our 2027 capital plan. Certainly a volleyball is probably much less expensive than pickleball. Pickleball, I think for $100,000 to $150,000, you could build a really nice court, like 2 really nice courts. I think that the difficulty with Clark Drive is that property, one, we've applied for a grant to put a fire hall there and we don't yet know the response yet. And if we're gonna have construction there, then that's the time to also potentially look at other uses of the site, because not only will the location of the fire hall inform the location of potentially pickleball, but it would inform the driveway access and the parking. So I have very mixed feelings on what should happen here. My thought would be that this should be part of our 2027 capital plan and or discussion with the grant, we know about the fire hall grant. I like the idea, again, of these recreational facilities, but I'm concerned about leapfrogging priorities that we have already approved. Thank you.
Councillor Jones?
Some of you might find this amusing. As a former Club Pro tennis coach, I was called upon to instruct pickleball back in the early days of pickleball. And those of you who know the dynamic relationship that exists now between pickleball players and tennis players might find that rather amusing. But I would like to point out that I agree with the points made about the sport, the growth of the sport, the benefits to health. I don't think there's any debate over those. It's been quite amazing. I think the only sport to rival this is probably soccer, which for many years has been the fastest growing sport in Canada, but not anymore. So good job, pickleball. But that's not what we're debating tonight. We're debating something different, including whether it's appropriate or possible to have pickleball courts in Lantzville. And as a chairperson of the Parks and Trails Committee, Select Committee, there are several things that come to mind here that concern me. The first is that it's been made clear that staff doesn't have the resources to lend full support to this committee, and for council to pass a motion now asking staff to partner with a community association is, I'm not even going to say what I think about that. You can put in your own words. It certainly doesn't feel good from where I am sitting, and I don't imagine it would to the people on the committee who have spent 2.5 years working very hard Now, the question that council needs to consider, I think, is the one that was posed in the age-friendly plan, and it says, first step, determine the community interest in dedicated pickleball courts, this is a quote, including the appropriate number and facility design. The Parks and Trails Select Committee has taken a look at that and come to some conclusions. We were not able to find a suitable site for pickleball in this community at this time. Most of our parks are adjacent to residential areas. The Clark Med site, as Councillor Lerner said, has a phased development agreement on it, and adjacent to where the courts are proposed, there will be a line of townhomes. And also nearby, there is a mobile home park, and the people living there should be considered as residents who will be impacted by the noise and respected. So there's some issues there, but I would like to note some other things. The Pickleball Association itself has some guidelines. One of them is that it feels that when a community reaches a population of 5,000, that's the threshold for a single pickleball court in the community. We are not near that threshold of 5,000 yet. In addition, Lantzville taxpayers pay taxes for the use of Nanaimo facilities. So if we now want to put this burden on our taxpayers, we are asking them to pay for pickleball as well as pay their tax bill to Nanaimo. Now, I do respect that we may get some grant money. That's a possibility for pickleball, but I can't support asking our staff to be putting their limited resources into that right now. There are other priorities I feel that fall into the recreation category. I won't go into it. It's just my opinion for now. So I guess the final thing I'd say is I alluded to it when I first started speaking, that I do find it odd to partner with an association when we have a Parks and Trails Select Committee that staff doesn't have the resources to support right now, and that has been hard on the committee. But I will also point out that the Facebook page of this association is not just pickleball. There were several posts on it of a political nature, in particular supporting a recent development application. So I think we need to look a little deeper into whether we would partner with this group, or those are questions to be asked if we ever do partner with any associations. It's come up before in the last council. There were questions about partnering with another association in Lantzville. So I'll leave it there for now, but I would like to say that this is something that is seriously considered at the level of recreation for Parks and Trails. And from what we can see, it doesn't tick the boxes to say, yes, let's put our resources into this right now. There are many ways to spend our limited resources in Lantzville for facilities. If we can come up with land, and if the excuse me, if I could ask for no talking, well.
Councillor Jones, you can direct that through the chair.
Thank you, through to the chair.
Yeah, through the
Sorry,
gallery,
I
if you
hear
could
it.
just, thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Jones.
Yeah, sorry, I lost my train of thought there. The solution that Qualicum has come up with, and they're gonna build a few pickleball courts in their community of, I think it's around 30,000 people, is to provide the land and have the Pickleball Association provide half the funding of the courts. So that's, might be a talking point in the future, which is when I think this should perhaps come back to council. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Mundell.
Yeah, I 100% agree with the Parks and Trails Committee being involved in this. This is basically exactly the reason why the Parks and Trails Committee exists. And as other people have pointed out, everyone in the community was invited and welcome to put their name in and get involved in that committee. So I believe that that was an opportunity for members of the public to engage and get involved in committees, which is the means in every community, in every municipality, for folks to get involved and partner with the municipality, to have their voices heard, to be involved. So I find this a little odd that we're suggesting that we're going to partner with an organization versus go with the recommendations of our Parks and Trails Committee. I was involved in a local community association. I was never once invited to be involved in any discussions at the district level or within with the district. So I just find this very different and odd. The costs of these courts, as many have discussed tonight, they aren't nothing, and not every member of this community will access and use them. So I don't think that it's necessarily fair that everyone should have to pay for them. So as others have mentioned, fundraising or coming up with funding to cover those costs might be something to consider. I'm not against pickleball. I'm not against beach volleyball. I just think that we need to be very thoughtful about how and where and the ways we're going to fund all of this. I agree that we should consider grant funding for seeking financial resourcing, but I don't think, again, I wouldn't be supportive of all the community paying for this when only a certain group will be necessarily using it. As for location, thank you for providing the map. The map shows clearly that there are at least 23 dwellings adjacent currently to this area. And I think that I already talked to actually a lot of those folks in that community who had some noise complaints about a neighboring location that had issues with creating extensive noise. So I don't think that that would be appreciated to put a pickleball court in an area that's basically high density, which is again the trailer park right next there. And also just across the trail from this rendering is other residential areas. So I don't agree with this location. I don't disagree that there probably is a better location that could be found, and I'm willing to consider one if that were presented. I just don't support this one as being the best location for it. So my preference is we go to the Parks and Trails Committee for their recommendations. They can do the research. They do extensive research. In fact, they see them walking all over the community and getting involved. So I trust that they are doing a very good job at looking out for the residents and the interests of where the best spaces for recreation are in our community. So that's the way I'm leaning. So I won't be supporting this motion.
Okay, additional speakers, go ahead, Councillor Savage.
Thank you. So thanks to all the pickleballers who came out tonight. Appreciate your dedication trying to find a court and so on. And I appreciate Mayor Swain's wanting, recreation in Lantzville. He was involved in the dirt bike facility up in the Peterson Road Park there, and I'm a big supporter of sports. I played lots of racket sports, as a matter of fact. So one of the solutions that I'm would entertain is contributing some funding to a location like Pioneer Park for pickleball courts to Parks Nanaimo, so that both Lantzville and Nanaimo players could use it. One of the challenges, it's unfortunate that pickleball is run into noise conflict, and it's just a fact that there's been a lot of courts closed over noise conflict and so on. So the first thing is to look at lessons as to how others did it. And Nanaimo has put the courts on a 130-acre Bevan Park, well away from homes. Victoria has put it on Topaz Park, which is 25 acres, well away from homes. They put in 11 courts. I think there's a tournament there, an opening tournament this month. And Pioneer Park is 27 acres, well away from homes. And Councillor Jones brought up Qualicum. It just shows how thorough they are. They turned down one location and now have gone way out near the airport to an isolated area. And I think they're putting in 85,000 and looking for matching funding and more funding from elsewhere, like the pickleball clubs. So what's the lesson? The lesson is to plan carefully, because you don't want to put it in and then find out there's conflict. And Councillor Lerner brought up an example of this with Saanich. Those are very long distances. He brought up 110 meters, 152, even at 152 meters, that's, getting up there to 500 feet. So at any rate, unfortunately, this Clark Drive West location is not appropriate, I don't think, for so many reasons. You've got the Parklands Mobile homes across the street. The street is 66 feet wide, the right-of-way, then their property starts. And I think it's important when you measure to the property, not the home, because people have the right to go out into their yards and enjoy peace and quiet. And I just bring all these points up to show the challenges of putting it certainly at this location. And then to the west, we've got the Clark Med development, and their site plan shows 2 townhouse blocks parallel right to the property line of this 7915 Clark West. And you have to be careful about that imagine how the developer would feel if there is a noise concern with his product right there, and he's the one that donated this land to Lantzville. So, and to the south, there's properties. They're about 92 feet from the property line of 7915, right over the tracks. And again, they should be entitled to go out into the yard for peace and quiet, not just in their house. And the other thing is, this is the site of our future fire hall, up to $14 million expenditure. So that's job number one, is to ensure that it's sited at its best location, and anyone in the office there would deserve peace and quiet as well. And as well, there's 2 wells on the property, and we'll be getting a written something in writing from Island Health stating where structures can go, so that there's not preventing the slim chance we can get the wells approved. At any rate, and we've also received one concept of a site plan showing public works going right where that map we were sent today by the association. There's conflict there with their site plan. So at any rate, I give much credit to the pickleballers with this. And I started looking for a location about 4 years ago when a pickleballer approached me, and we looked at the tennis court, and I've been somewhat keeping my eye out ever since. But until I know where all the public land is in Lantzville, until we get a good location, I would be looking at partnering with Nanaimo, especially Pioneer Park. So close could be a good option. And if we do get land coming up, I think it's a great idea. I'd like to try the sport myself. So unfortunately, that's where I'm at with this. And we've learned the lesson to plan carefully. So thank you.
Okay, I'm not gonna spend much more time speaking to this, as I know where the vote's going. For myself, this isn't committing the district to actually installing pickleball courts. And in fact, by voting against this, you're basically cutting the association off at the knees, working with the district. So you might think, the association can still call the district. They can still book an appointment with the planner, and they can still walk through the process. This is just being transparent about it. But again, council can vote on that, and whichever way it chooses to. But again, I would, if this gets voted down, I would encourage the Lantzville Recreation Association to meet with staff and to further give input, and as it's laid out in the actual motion itself. Obviously their members are here tonight. They're hearing the concerns about sound mitigation. So if if there's input around that, by all means, make sure you give that information. With respect to the location, it's being characterized that yes, the Public Works yard will be built and there could be conflict. Well, I think council could probably recall there was an additional map provided some time ago, which did show, this where it's cited on the diagram that's being given to us by Mr. Boldry White. But in front of it, there's a 1 acre site that would be more than enough for Public Works. So there is an interference. In fact, it would create an additional buffer. But again, it's a non-profit society similar to the Seaside Community Society, which offers many community programs and so forth, and runs their Mindtown Day. I don't see this group being treated any differently than how the Seaside Community Society continues, how they're being treated today, and how we're partnering with them in terms of running community events and so forth, and so on. And if they came with a request, again, I think, council should carefully consider whatever the request is similar to this in terms of what, value it provides to the community as a whole. So, Mindtown Day isn't for everybody, but we give money to it. Every year, $10,000 we give to that, and we do spend staff time on that every year in some shape or form. But again, not all residents benefit from it. So there's lots of I think the cart has been put way ahead of the horse here, in terms of talking about the fire department and this and that. Ultimately, this is just an early planning exercise. Let's get a discussion going, and what may come of the discussion is this is a terrible idea, or actually this is not a bad idea, it's going to require a lot of work, and so on. But in terms of the staff time, I can confidently say the initial bit of this isn't going to take much time at all. It is not going to interfere with Dickinson Road or any other capital project from being built. I don't accept those arguments. The amount of time it's going to take to meet with this group initially is a matter of an hour, maybe a couple times, and that's it. So let's not make it more than what it is. But I think council's ready to vote. So I will move then to calling the question. All those in favor? Noe Swain's in favor, and those opposed? Councillor Lerner is opposed, Councillor Savage, Councillor Jones, Councillor Mandel are opposed. The motion fails. All right, so actually, we might as well go through the rest of the agenda, because all we have left is introduction of lead items. Any lead items to be introduced? Nothing. Okay. Any notices of motion? And public clarification. The gallery is clear. Do we have anybody remotely registered this evening? Okay. No. All right. So I'll just make the motion to close the meeting so that the regular council meeting be closed to the public pursuant to section 91A, C, D, K, and also 92B, which is an additional item. Okay, is there a seconder? Second by Councillor Lerner. I will move to call in question. All those in favor and opposed, that is carried unanimously. What's the time here? It's 8:19.